All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to talk about something you almost never hear in the same sentence as contract law, and that is forgiveness.
I mean, think about it, right? When you picture a contract ending, you probably imagine everyone did what they were supposed to do, end of story. But what if that's not the only way? What if there's an exit hatch?
Turns out the law actually has a built-in way to just let someone off the hook. It's called remission. And believe me, it's a super powerful concept that a lot of people don't even know exists.
So let's dig in and see how this legal forgive button actually works. It sounds simple, and in a way it is, but like with most things in law, the details are everything. Okay, so here's the big idea. Remission is basically when the person who's owed something, we call them the promisee, just decides, you know what, forget it. They just waive their right to it. It's not a deal. There's no back and forth. It's really just a one-sided act of grace. You can think of it like a legal free gift. Now, of course, this free gift comes with a rule book. It's not the Wild West. You can't just forgive a debt in any old way. There's a proper structure to it. So let's break down the different ways this legal forgiveness can happen. First off, you've got a choice. You can forgive the whole thing or just a piece of it. Whole remission is just what it sounds like. The entire debt is gone, vanished. The slate is wiped totally clean. But with partial remission, it's more like saying, hey, you owe me 10 grand, but you know what? Just give me 5 and we'll forget the rest. The debt gets smaller, but it doesn't disappear completely. Okay, next question. How do you actually show you're forgiving the debt? Well, you can be super direct about it. That's called express remission. You literally just say the words, I forgive your debt. Easy enough. But you can also show it without saying a word. That's implied remission. And the classic movie scene for this? Tearing up the IOU right in front of the debtor. That action speaks volumes, right? And this leads to a really, really important point. Who gets to make this call? Who holds all the power? Well, it's only the person who is owed the promise. Only they can grant remission. And it has to be their choice, completely voluntary. And here's the kicker. Once it's done, it's done. It is final. No take-backsies in the world of legal forgiveness. All right, so we've got the rules down. But what happens when this stuff hits the real world? You know, when things get complicated. Let's dive into some actual cases and see how just a few simple words can mean the difference of millions. First up, we've got a case involving actual royalty. The players are a creditor named Lala Karparchand and the Prince of Berar, who, well, owed him a lot of money. So here's what happened. The prince was on the hook for 27 lakh rupees. Then, things change politically, a debt committee gets involved, and they offer the creditor 20 lakhs to just settle the whole thing. The creditor accepts the 20 lakhs, but then he tries to sue the prince for the other 7. Bold move. And that right there is the big question for the court. Or, I guess, the 7 lakh rupee question. By taking that smaller amount, did the creditor legally forgive the rest of the debt? What do you think? You're not going to believe this, but the entire case came down to just a few words. The court discovered the creditor accepted that payment in full and final settlement. And legally, that phrase was a game changer. The Supreme Court said that by accepting the money with those exact words, he had legally forgiven the rest of the debt. That's it. Case closed. But what happens if you change the words just a little bit? Let's look at another case that shows how a tiny little tweak in phrasing leads to a totally different result. This time, we're talking damaged goods, a railway company, and a check. Okay, the setup is pretty similar. A company's stuff gets damaged, the railway sends them a check and says, yep, this is for full and final satisfaction of the claim. But here's the twist. The company cashed the check, but at the same time, they sent a letter saying they were accepting it under protest and were still going to sue for the rest of the money. So now the court has a new puzzle. Does the action, cashing the check, trump the words, the written protest? Did they basically forgive the debt with their actions, even though their words screamed no way? And the court's answer was, nope. Those 2 tiny words, under protest, made all the difference. That was a crystal clear signal that the company was not letting them off the hook and was not taking this as the final payment. Just by adding that one little phrase, they kept their right to sue for the rest. It's an amazing example of how precise language can totally flip the script. Okay, so these 2 cases really shine a light on a super important legal difference. Remission, as we've seen, is a one-way street. It's forgiveness. But people often mix it up with something totally different. When two parties decide to scrap the old deal and make a new one, that's not forgiveness. That's a whole other thing called accord and satisfaction.
This chart here breaks it down perfectly. See that first row, consideration? That's just the fancy legal word for what each person gets out of a deal. With remission, there's zero consideration for the person forgiving the debt. It's a gift, pure and simple. But with accord and satisfaction, there is an exchange. It's a two-sided agreement, not a one-sided gift. So let's say instead of just forgiving a 10,000 rupee debt, I agree to take your motorcycle instead. That's not remission. We've just made a new deal. And that's why the law sees them so differently. A gift is a one-and-done deal, but a new agreement is a whole new set of promises that both of us have to keep.
All right, we've gone from royal debts to railway disputes. We've covered a lot. So what are the big takeaways here? Let's boil it all down to the absolute essentials.
It really comes down to 3 key rules. Rule number 1, remission is a free gift. It's a one-way act of grace, no strings attached. Rule number 2, the phrase in full and final settlement has some serious legal muscle. Be super careful when you use it or see it because it can make a whole debt disappear. And rule number 3, think of under protest as your legal veto power. It's how you say, I'm taking this, but we are not done here. And it keeps your right to sue wide open.
So when you get right down to it, this is all about the incredible power of words. We've seen how one little phrase can slam a case shut, while another can pry it right back open. It really leaves you with a big question for any agreement, big or small. Are your words saying what you really mean? Because as we've just seen, in the eyes of the law, what's written down can be every bit as powerful as what's done. Thanks for digging into this with me.